Welcome my fellow colonials, this is part one of the unboxing that I have promised. This package is from lcants.uk and it is in fact the full leaf cutter setup. So that's all three pods, the humidifier and a few other bits. We're just going to go through the package now and see what's inside. So it initially was covered with a layer of bubble wrap. Everything is really nicely bubble wrapped. It's all well protected. You've got Wotsits in there to save anything from shaking about and causing any scratches or damage. In here is one of the grow pods. Checking it out now, the lids are really nicely made. This one has ventilation. One lid does come without ventilation. That's to increase the humidity within the fungus chamber. The fungus itself needs between 99% and 100% humidity, which is why the fungus pod does not come with ventilation, whereas the foraging and the rubbish pod does. Also included is this Visitherm 25 watt water heater. I'll go into that a bit later. Here is the package of all the accessories. So you've got the 3D printed connectors, you've got the end caps, you've got various little caps that go on the lid. This is the clay pebbles that come with it, so that's sort of the substrate that you can place down. This itself is the housing of the humidifier. As you can see, the top layer there is vented to allow the water to escape through and the condensation to create the humidity, and this is supposed to heat up and warm the grow pods to the correct temperature. You want the sweet spot to be about 24.5 degrees Celsius for the fungus. Inside is also this really nice information sheet. It's got good instructions on there, how to put the setup together, and just various sort of Q&As. Anything you can sort of get in touch with the guy who runs Ants Lab, and he will answer any of the questions. So that's it for the packaging. Let's just take another look at the finish of this lid. It is absolutely really spot on manufactured. It's really nice. Look how clean these edges are. It's what you would expect for the price. Here we have the lids lined up just so that you can see what I was talking about earlier. Two of them are vented and one of them isn't. In case that isn't too clear, I'll lift off the central section here so that you can see it is just a clear piece. Again, that is to increase the humidity within the fungus chamber, whereas the other ones are the foraging and the dumping chamber. They don't need as much humidity, so therefore they are vented, and it's also to allow airflow through the setup, which flows really nicely. I mean, the finish on these lids are exactly what you would expect for the price point that you're paying on this item. So let's take a look at all three pods as they are, with all the packaging taken off. Unfortunately, this for me personally is where I felt a little bit let down. As you can see, the finish on the top, it doesn't so much matter here. Like, the finish is not that great. It's more when you get to the pipes and you start to see how sort of chipped they are. The finish is a bit rough. It's personally something that I could achieve at home. So when you're paying a professional for professional work and you're paying the price point that you're paying, I think it's the fine details that matter. I mean, this pipe here was so rough, I did nearly cut my fingers on it when I was sort of moving it around. The advertisement boasts, you know, a high quality professional clear acrylic finish. On the actual grow pod itself, I don't know if you can see, but there's milky white vertical lines running the entire of the setup, and it does block the view ever so slightly, but this is a little bit more of an annoyance for someone like myself who is a content creator and really wants that nice crystal clear finish to be able to record the content. So I had absolutely no problems getting the lid on the what I call the fungus chamber. So this is the pod I use as the fungus chamber. The lid slipped on nicely. It looks nice. It's a good finish. Unfortunately, the setup was still covered in a bit of dust, so I had to give it a clean up. You know, from purchase, I waited over 10 days to receive this product. And, you know, again, I was hoping that it was all going into the manufacturing and the quality. It's just my own personal disappointment. So I tried to get the lids onto the other grow pods, and this is where I ran into more trouble. I mean, there is absolutely no give in getting these lids on. I did have to stop recording and use both hands and forcibly pry these lids in place to the point they are so well stuck down they will not come off, which only gives me the central lid to be able to lift off to gain access to the grow pod, which can become quite frustrating. This now brings me to the 3D printed connectors. Again, more frustration. These are millimeters too large and they just do not hold the pipes securely in place. This is me just showing you that they wobble about, but it was so bad for me that when I lined them all up, the slightest knock or the slightest movement to the setup and the pipes were just falling off with the connectors. They're just not that great for what they are. Really good concept, but just not that great. If you actually look at the pictures on the website, these connectors aren't being used and the pipes are stuck into each other. I did try to replicate this and the pipes just do not fit together without the connectors. So unfortunately for me, again, this is my own personal experience, this is just the way I feel, these connectors are just a bit useless. They're not fit for purpose. And I was incredibly lucky, as you'll see later on in the video, that I had gone out and I had purchased extra connectors from eBay, roughly measured up to the correct size, and I decided to use those instead. You know, again, I'm left sadly disappointed. I would love to say that, you know, I got this product, it was fantastic, I pulled it out of the box and I could immediately put it all together and it looked amazing, and that my buying experience was one that you would expect for when you're putting down that much hard-earned cash on a product. But, you know, sadly, even the end caps, they just will not fit. Now remember, I'm housing, you know, a colony that costs quite a large amount of money. So, you know, not only that, I've got leaf cutter ants on their way, and this is where they're going to be housed, you know. So you expect when you're paying this kind of money that, of course, the craftsmanship and the product match up to the price point. And, you know, I feel a little bit let down on that side, but enough of that. This is the humidifier housing. This is where it fits inside. It fits in really nicely. It looks nice when it's situated within the setup. And of course, this houses the Visitherm 25-watt water heater, which I showed you earlier, that comes with it. The water heater comes with its own internal thermostat. You can turn the heating up and down by twisting the dial at the top, and then you can see the temperature gauge rise and fall. Set it to what you need to set it to. However, you're going to need to play about with this for quite a bit to get the right temperatures. I would also recommend using the Habistat Pulse Proportional thermostat to get the correct temperatures. This is the setup as I've built it, not as it's shown on the website. As you can see, I'm using the connectors that I purchased off eBay, and rather being in a straight line as it's supposed to be, I now have a sort of full circle design going on. I don't mind the way I've got this set up now, but I am a little bit worried about the pipes that I'm using as they're dark and the ants will want to use them too. So moving on, the other issue that I slightly found is there's nowhere for me to stick the probe for my Habistat thermostat. I have to put it in with the water heater. Now, if you understand how they work, the water chamber will obviously be hotter than the setup itself. So the thermostat will only read the temperature within the pipe, meaning that it's quite difficult for me to get the temperatures perfect and safe. The other issue is this piece here has portholes in it, but there's no way to port anything into it. So of course it sits like that, and then I've got no way to put my probe now into the setup, and there's nowhere else that I can put this probe without obviously having a gap for the ants to escape from, which would not be great because I definitely don't want my leaf cutter ants running around my house. Again, it's not ideal, but the only workaround I could find was to squeeze both cables within the cap and then sit that inside. Of course, it is damaging the cables as it's scratching part of the plastic that protects the cable as I fit it into the setup. If it was just a single cable, it would be fine and it would all fit nicely. I will be doing a follow-up review on how practical the setup is, how I've been using it, how I find it. You know, the setup has some great concepts, but also to add to that, the digital hygrometer and thermometer was also not included. I have spoken to Raj, the guy who owns Ants Labs, and you know, he's apologized. He's going to send me out replacement fittings, replacement caps, and also a thermometer and hygrometer when it's back in stock. But there was no communication over this. I was unaware that that item would not be coming. Again, it's just led more to my disappointment. It did mean that I had to borrow the hygrometer and digital thermometer from another of my colonies, which sadly means that colony is going without due to that reason. Thank you so much for watching. I will be doing a follow-up review, so please hit the like and subscribe, follow the channel. For now, this is the Colonialist signing out. If you purchase this, I hope you have a better experience than I did.